Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today's January 5, 2025. Want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Please subscribe. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Mark Rago today. And thanks to the Venice Heritage Museum is where we met. Mark, where are you calling from?
I'm here in Venice, only about, one long block from the museum.
How cool is that? The first question is, what's the best thing for a human being?
Um, I would say freedom, opportunity, um, happiness, obviously. But
Dude, that's three big
yeah,
words right there. I love it because very few people say freedom right off the bat. Peace and freedom, that's what Venice is all about. What's
yeah.
your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Um, I have the TV on a lot, but I think meeting people like yourself or interesting people, I think is a kind of a hidden joy for many people. Whether you travel or just in your everyday life, just talking to different people.
That's
Not
called
nec-
we call it direct experience. That's amazing. I love that. Meeting people. Really cool. So why do you think humans collect or gather information?
um, Good question. I guess it's just in our human nature, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just to make themselves smarter and better
Yeah.
as a person. Um, I think everyone kind of wants those things to be smarter and to be a better person in their own world. And yeah,
Do thoughts create emotions?
sure, yeah, definitely, yeah. Even music, different forms of art, I think, can trigger a good memory or a bad memory and put you, emotionally sad or happy or um, reminiscent emotions. Yeah.
Very good, Mark. Fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I.
Um, Boy, I don't know. I don't know what I think until I mm, educate myself.
Dude, good
I
verb.
mean,
No, that's a great verb because McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. Educate is what I'm all about. I love that word. Mark, can humans think without language?
I would think so. I would, yeah. I mean, I guess when you're newborns, don't really have a language yet, but they can still think, right? So, and I never delved into learning another language. I knew a little bit of Spanish in high school, but I remember my Spanish teacher saying she knew she was completely fluent when she would think in Spanish. So I always thought that was interesting. Always kind of stuck with me. But I think I've
Wow.
always thought it'd be fascinating to think in another language. I can't even comprehend that.
That that's pretty good. I like that. That's good because your observe. No, Chomsky says language is not just words; it's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
I've traveled a little bit, and it definitely can be tough. Um, uh, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the situation, but there's different forms of language too. Whether you're talking about, I think music is its own language. Um, Even certain trades, you could you can argue is they have their own words and definitions, and it's a whole other world and language. But when it breaks down, it can be tough. Yeah. But I love the fact that we live in a world where there are different languages and different, you know, peoples and traditions and, you know, in different languages and customs. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
great.
Your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or are we more feeling beings?
Um, I think most people would think we're more thinking, but I think we're more feeling.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think we all go through life feeling more than we think we do.
Yeah. Amazing, because these are two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
Um, yeah, and you know, the life you've lived up to that point obviously plays a huge part in your thought process and what you know could even possibly think about. Um, so yeah, if yeah, think it could be part of your soul, sure, yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, but also whatever you've experienced in your life up to that point, you have to think about too if you remember it, and
Yeah.
yeah,
It's good. No one's ever said that. That's good. It's part of thinking's a function of your past, you're saying, and your experiences. Yeah. So the
yeah.
second Turing question is, can machines think?
Good question, especially in this world now, with all the AI and now we're talking about quantum computing, supposed to be next big, faster than computers. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm not really into that tech world, but so they say. They say that you know these computers can think for themselves now, even though you know my phone still doesn't have a good spell check, and I get frustrated at some software programs because it won't catch up to what I'm typing. So I'll believe it when I see it, but I do
Yeah.
believe it. Yeah.
Do you brought up this word earlier right off the bat. I'm curious, do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Definitely happiness for me. Um, you know, I guess when I was younger, I would think more about the meaning of life and, you know, does every interaction mean something in the grand world of things or in my life and all that. But the more I get older, the more I don't really think about meaning as much. And it's more about, you know, this is one life. How can I make the best of it? How can I make myself and people around me as happy as they can be?
Yeah, it's interesting because I got the question from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, and he says happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning tends to last.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I knew there was a life after this, I knew what the world was like. If there is one, I would um, definitely think more about meaning, I guess. But
Yeah.
given it's an unknown, I got one life. I'm gonna try to be as happy as I can, and whatever that means. Hopefully, it means good things at the end of the day, for myself and for people around me, and in the big scheme of things.
Yeah, be here now. That's a great philosophy, but a great Venice comedian activist, Paul Krasner, said, I only believe in reincarnation in one of my past lives.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
um, I can't wait to hopefully find out one day.
Yeah. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
I would say detecting it, um, but I would also say it does both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, um, Boy, that's one or the other. I guess I could change my mind tomorrow. Whatever I say today. So,
Oh, no, that's
um,
fine. That's like
yeah,
my mom. I asked my mom, "Can I ask you these questions?" And she said, "Yeah, but tomorrow I might answer them differently." I goes, "That's okay. I'm not holding you to
Yeah.
them." What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
I would have to say speed of thought. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I guess speed of light is mathematical, right? Speed of thought. I'm not sure if they can put a a speed on that, but I would say speed of thought.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong answers to any of my questions, but that one you got right. So, the poet Audre Lorde said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." Her colleague Yvonne Rainer said, "No, you can if you expose the tools." What new tool do you suggest?
Mm, to dismantle.
Well, that's a good question. It's basically you put the questions into the context you want. So it's basically I'm asking you, what tool do you gravitate towards? The word new you can apply, and then you can apply it to dismantling the master's house if you like.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I think when I hear the question, my mind goes to dismantling things in your own world that you're not okay with, that you don't want to engage with anymore or have in your life anymore. And that can mean a lot of different things, whether it's people in your life, or even what you eat every day. So I don't know. I guess it depends on, for me. Um, I guess I guess my mind is kind of going towards uh, having like the will to dismantle whatever you think should be dismantled. So
Yeah. No, you're
yeah,
saying your tool's willpower.
yeah, willpower. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
What new toy do you suggest?
Um, hmm. Um, New toy. Well, this I will go. I will go into the tech world on this one. I will say like this augmented reality and virtual reality. I think will play a huge part. Probably not in our lifetimes, but in a couple more. And I'm kind of disappointed I won't be around to see where it goes, or maybe I can look down and see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's stuff is just far out on anything that a lot of us could have imagined growing up. So
Yeah. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
um I guess being you know having enough money and being happy and being healthy in my older age,
Yeah.
in my 70s, 80s, and 90s, and hopefully hundreds. And my family, and their health and their happiness. So,
Well, you introduced me to your mom there a week ago, and she seems to be pretty healthy at her age. So you it looks like
oh yeah,
you got good genes in your blood there.
very true. Yeah, thankfully. Yep, yep, yep.
Well, McLuhan learned from a poet that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions. So we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Mark, I asked you the question McLuhan probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Mm, I guess it's just easier. you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, the way humans have, most humans have structured our lives, it's almost like you don't even have the time to think about the subliminal, uh, things that artists or musicians or anyone in conversation can bring up. And so it's just easier just to go on your day to day. What am I going to eat next? What am I going to do for work next? And
Yeah.
How am I going to self-indulge, whether it be whatever I enjoy, instead of facing the realities of other things that you may not like. Yeah.
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 Well, perfect lead in. Do artists have moral obligation?
No, I don't think so. No, but I love, I don't mind the fact that if someone that may feel that way, or
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's totally fine. And it's almost like, if you're not going to talk about something, then who will? And yeah.
Yeah, good. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Um, Probably old ideas. Yeah. Because, I guess, I mean, you look at like where medicine was 100 years ago, or 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and how much it's changed over the years, for the better, for the most part. um and if people were still drilling teeth like they were 500 years ago,
Ow!
you know or anything, so any kind of these medieval solutions they had, I keep me I don't want any part of it, but you got
We're
a new
spoiled.
way of doing things, so let's hear it. Yeah, I'm all for
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
um yeah, I mean, not really. I guess I don't remember. My family moved when I was about 2, and I do remember going into the new house and saying, "I want this room," and my mom and dad say, "Good, because that's the room we're going to give you." But I don't remember anything before that moment. So yeah, I guess that's my earliest one right there. Yeah.
Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
It depends on the person, I think. I think a lot of people went through some hard stuff that they just want a mind eraser.
Yeah.
and other people, I kind of grew up in a good family, and traveled a lot, and I'm glad I wrote some stuff down, otherwise I never would have remembered it. So I
Wow,
remember.
that's good.
Yeah.
So tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
um well, I'd say Michael Ritchie, my dad's brother. He was a pilot for TWA. So he would
Yeah.
send us postcards from all these different little parts of the world, and that just made me jealous as hell. And I just wanted to go explore the world. And So that kind of was a big impact on me, without him ever knowing it was.
Wow, that's sort of really cool. Now, same question outside your immediate family. Someone who had an impact on you, and what was the impact?
um, Boy, I don't know. I think I'm just like thinking about Jimmy Buffett, where he just
What do
wants
you think you got from what did you get from Jimmy Buffett?
just hey, relaxing on the beach is a pretty good thing. And so you probably work too hard, and they probably should enjoy your life more.
That is good. Relax on the beach, man. A Venetian couldn't say it better than that, man. We're lucky. We kinda live in heaven, you know? That was cool, Mark. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
uh, they tried Baptist, and but it just didn't take to me. I just didn't understand any of the whole religion, whether it's baptism or Catholicism, or I just didn't grasp it. I didn't understand it. I didn't truly believe there was someone looking over us at all times. So, but they never pressured me at all,
Yeah.
or my brother. Um, so, and I noticed my dad, he didn't really go to church every Sunday. So I was like, well, how come he doesn't have to go? So, but
Yeah. So, Mark, do you pray?
no, no. no.
If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Hmm. Um, wow. Um, I would like him to say that was one of your many lives, and this was, and you did well, I guess.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there's more.
Wow, that's cool. So, do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
I'd say evil people exist. Yeah.
Well, the real hidden question mark is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. Basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Um, no, I think you have to acknowledge them. I don't think it necessarily means you empower them. Um, I think it could even go the opposite way, whereas you acknowledge them and you think lower of them. And yeah, yeah. So I don't necessarily agree with that.
But
Um,
what would you if your friend said, "Hey, someone's bullying me or they're attacking me in one way or another," what kind of advice would you give them?
um, I do believe that as far as like bullies are concerned, I do think they need to be bullied back. I've seen that work even growing up in school. Um, you know, yeah, with many different things, and yeah, I mean, if you just let the bully, if you just stay weak against the bully, that's not going to change anything. I think the bully needs to be put in his place, and yeah.
Very interesting because you can anticipate the next question. Nassim Taleb said games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. My
Mhm.
friend said, "Hey, villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom." The word you used right off the bat.
Yeah.
And Gregory Bateson, the anthropologist, says if the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, oh, I did something morally and socially wrong? So it's again a lot of thoughts, but the basic question is,
Mhm.
does punishment work?
I think so. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it depends on the form of punishment, also. But
Yeah.
and what the punishment was for. I mean, if you truly believe that what you did was in the right, um, I doubt the punishment will do much.
Yeah. And now into your field, James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? And then years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
um, Always searching for another meaning. Others always searching for some form of tidbit of education that you never thought of before that could help you or change you, and
Yeah.
also just for pure entertainment purposes.
Yeah. It's good. So walk us through kind of your your through line, like what did you study in high school and college? And when did you find your calling? What was the tipping point to find your calling? Because in essence, you're head of distribution for a film company. Is that correct?
Not the head, but yeah, I book movies into theaters. Yeah.
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 So, walk us through that. Where did you find that was your calling? Hey, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I just kind of fell into it. I wasn't really a good student in high school. I was smart, but I never studied. I always hated homework. I was just it would tick me off that that they would give me spend more of my time at home learning when I was at school the whole day. They could, and so I just didn't like to do homework, and I kind of got by high school with C's, and I went to a trade school in college, basically teaching me. It was a 2-year trade school all about the film and music business. So they teach you how to work a 24-track audio console and concert production lights and cameras and movie set stuff and all that kind of thing. And I thought I'd work on movie productions and TV productions when I moved out to LA. And I just happened to answer an ad in LA Times for a box office clerk, whatever that meant. So I just fell into it. I just answered the ad. I got the job and worked my way up over the years. I never thought I would work a 9-to-5 job. I always kind of, that's not me, but I'm glad I fell into this. And, I don't love it. But, I do enjoy it and I don't hate it, but, it's the people are good. And, I've bounced around a lot of different companies. And, yeah, I'm happy where I'm at and happy where I wound up. But at the same time, it's not anywhere where I thought I would be in my life years ago.
Yeah. Well, because the screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process doing what you're doing?
Um, well, I don't know. I mean, I think both of them can be correct. And like my job really isn't very creative. It's very numbers oriented.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think, I honestly think that like many people who want to write or get into music or be artistic in any way have something to say. They just don't know how to say it in that form of language. And some people can learn that language and express how they feel within that language. And other people just kind of give up and just do something just because it's easy, whether it's supposed to be meaningful for them or anyone else or not. Um, so I think it can go both ways. Yeah.
Right. But in your job, I'm just curious. This extension of that question is Marcel Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much do you have to think of the audience when you're making decisions being a distributor?
Being a distributor, you definitely have to think your audience because it's all about money. So you need people to pay money to see the product. Um, I think for an everyday artist out here in Venice Walkway, I don't think they probably don't really care. It's all about their art and how it makes them feel, and they don't really put too much thought into um, how much someone else or the greater amount of people might pay for it. But I guess it depends if you want to how much you're looking to sell the product that you're making. Whether it's for a film, if there's a lot of people, whether it's the writer or the director or you got the actors too, and you have a studio that needs to make money, and so it's just a lot of people for it to be one person's vision. But a lot of independent films are are that way though, and they're some of the best movies ever made too. So yeah.
Well, it sounds funny because there's a couple things. There's a great shot of Frank Zappa talking many years ago, and they asked him about the music business. He said, "Well, in the '60s, the kid would bring the demo in the cigar chomping executive would go, I don't know, give it to Joey in the mailroom and that ask him if it's any good. And then how it's changed over the years is the executive who goes, give it to the accounting department and tell me if I'm I mean, where's that
Yeah.
role in your job of kind of predicting, or how do you where talk about that gray area where you have to be making some creative decision like let's give, I was shocked. I went to the movies the other day for the first time. I go to like USC once in a while and see movies on a big screen, but that's pretty selective and it's more art cinema. But I went and saw the new Bob Dylan film, Complete Unknown, at the Marina. And I was pretty shocked at how many people were there at a 1:30 screening. And you're like, what? Do kids even know and care who Bob Dylan is? Isn't it a bunch of old farts like us? I was sort of shocked on how the experience was there. And like, it is a pretty traditional, let's tell a story, you know, human relationships, blah, 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 struggling for the artist to be creative. But I don't know if it was really a risky film they kind of predicted, with stars and great directors. So, like, how do you do that when some independent comes along? You go, okay, I'm not going to show the independent because I know this film has stars and in the studios like urging me to play this in all my theaters.
Yeah, I mean, I work at Focus Features now, but I've also used to work at Miramax years ago, where we had
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino. And Tarantino was someone that, they kind of let him do whatever he wanted, and it paid off. Right now at Focus, we have Nosferatu, the Robert Eggers movie, and
Yeah.
beautiful movie. And we kind of let him do whatever he wanted, and he kind of made this masterpiece. But there's also many studios where, hey, look, we're not going to make this unless you have an Angelina Jolie or a Brad Pitt attached, and then maybe we'll take a look at it. Maybe we'll do it. So yeah, I guess it depends on the studio, the filmmaker, mostly obviously, but yeah, I mean, as far as music goes, I mean, God, what a different world, because I think of like all those musicians back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, where the record company would let them grow with the label, and they put out 3 or 4 albums that wouldn't do much until they got big. And really, Springsteen, he had a couple albums that they were okay, and they did okay in the East Coast, but it wasn't until Born to Run or Born USA that really paid off. But just think of like probably all the great artists and musicians now that we just don't know of, because they just don't have that opportunity. They don't have that chance to
Yeah.
grow with a label and you know um, you know make their craft that much better as
Yeah.
time
Very,
goes.
very interesting because we're going to get into music after we talk about films a little more. But this is funny because what I was asking about was risk taking. And Leonard Cohen said the only way you can sell a concert is if you put yourself at risk. And if you don't do that, people know. What role does risk play in your creative process?
Um, well, I think it depends on whatever you're creating. If it's a painting, it can be a little more risky. If it's a screenplay, you have to think of where you want that screenplay to go. It can't be too risky, otherwise no one will buy it. If it's music, I think, yeah, I mean, I think you can be risky. I guess it just depends. But I do think there's the saying where there's no reward without the risk, I think, is definitely plays a part in many things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yep.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extends our teeth, the shutter in a camera extends our eyelid, and maybe even like non-tangible, say religion or philosophy extends consciousness. What do movies extend for you? What humanness is extended by movies?
Um, I just love to see how other people live, whether they're real
Yeah.
characters or not. Um, I kind of gravitate a lot towards foreign films, just to see, how people live their everyday lives in other parts of the world. So, um, I enjoy those type of movies. A little movie set in Beirut much more than, the latest, action hero movie. So.
Yeah. It's amazing. I had to suffer. They literally said you're going to have 20 minutes of previews before this Dylan film, and every preview was cars and guns, and I was like in hell. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't watch those at all, and I just covered my eyes, but it was an assault on my senses. It was
Yeah.
disturbing. And what's the function of movies?
I think it's just at the end of the day, it's just pure entertainment for
Yeah,
the individual watching. It's a nice escape from whatever you're going through in your everyday life, and especially when you're in a theater more so than at home. And because I know at home, I'm kind of looking at my phone a little bit, and grab a snack or whatever. Um, but I do think the escapism of going to the movies and being engulfed in another world for an hour and a half to 2.5 hours is a great thing. Yeah.
yeah. Because here's another thing. McLuhan said in 1957, it's misleading to suppose there's any basic difference between education and entertainment. Like that one teaches and the other one pleases. He says it's always been true that whatever pleases teaches more effectively. So,
Yeah.
if you can discuss the difference, because you brought up both those words, entertainment and education. What's the difference? Is there any basic difference?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. Especially when it comes to documentaries, where they're fully there just to educate. Um, but as far as regular drama movies go, I do think it's true where if it's more relatable, if you enjoy the entertainment more, you will easier to educate. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because Jean-Luc Godard told Michael Moore when he premiered Fahrenheit 9/11 at the Cannes Film Festival, he said, "This film's gonna help Bush get elected." Now, it didn't help Bush get elected per se, but it galvanized pro-Bushers. So with this slew of political docs over the recent years, bottom line, do they more activate or more pacify people?
Um, I would have to say they more activate, especially because if you're not going to watch it, you're more, you'd be more, pacifier,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you wind up watching it, you're almost asking yourself to be more activated, after seeing it.
Yeah. McLuhan said there's no such thing as a good or a bad movie. It's a good or a bad viewing experience. Any comment?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, there's definitely some truth in that. There's been a few movies that I just had a horrible time with. They weren't horrible movies, but I thought the viewing experience was horrible. And, I try not to take it out on the movie itself. Um, but, um, but at the end of the day, I think it is an art form that, you know, depending on who you are, you can love it or you can hate it. I have many
Yep.
friends who I love who refuse to watch foreign films, and I
Yeah.
just think they're missing out, and I just, but that's who they are. So,
Yeah, we just watched Amarcord by Fellini the other day, and it's a masterpiece. And then Criterion puts a whole documentary on it, and you learn so much more about the making and who Fellini is and all that. So, I spoke with Michael Apted about 45 years ago, right there at Vidiot's. He was talking, he made a documentary on a Russian rock star. And I said, why do rock video makers feel so obliged to edit fast? And most people don't know Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922, but it really flourished in the 80s with MTV to to the point where Marty says, I cut my films faster because of MTV. So Michael Apted said, well, we've learned to take in information faster. So, Mark, I asked this question with a bias. Can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
no, I think we can take information faster for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Is it literally possible for humans to multitask?
yeah, I guess that's a very good question. I guess it depends on what you're multitasking with, obviously. I mean, you can bike and, read your iPhone at the same time. But as far as, doing math and, I don't know, being engrossed in the TV show is kind of hard. So, yeah, I guess it just depends on what you're multitasking.
Yeah,
You can cook and do many things at the same time, right? So,
that's it. So what do you think the motive of the cave artist was?
um, yeah, I think I have a hard time believing that they did it just for future generations to see what they could do or to see what their lives were like. I just kind of think I think a lot of it's just, hey, look, I made me getting food. I just look at that. Someone do that, and someone else did, and I mean, um, yeah,
You
I don't
mean
know.
the
That's
you mean they were just doodling?
yeah. I mean, at the same time, I look at the Egyptian hieroglyphics, and it's just like, and you see the same, symbols in a lot of different pyramids and writings, and it's pretty fascinating. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know, but I I take a lot of that with a grain of salt as far as the snake means this in this culture. Or they always say they think it does. They never really actually know. So I always take a lot of that with historical symbolisms with a grain of salt because it seems like most of the time it's not concrete information. It's just what is believed.
Yeah. Concrete information. It reminds me of I study etymology, like where do words come from? Because all words are made up. And then every once in a while, the word will say of unknown origin. It's like, well, every word is of unknown origin. It's
Yeah,
just that
right.
somebody said at some point, oh, this, you know. So
Yeah.
what's more important, conviction or compromise?
Um, yeah, again, it's dependent, but I mean, for me personally, I would say as I get older, I'm more compromised, um, and I guess it depends on the conviction too, and what you're aiming for, and what the importance of that of what you're trying to achieve. But compromise is definitely important in our worlds, I think. So yeah.
Very good, Mark. In your accomplishments, how do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
Um, um, I would say ambition, luck, and skill.
Ambition, luck, and skill. Well, you got to hear the uh, the origin because I got a lot of my questions from Christine McKenna, who wrote for the LA Weekly for years, and she came up with a lot of cool questions, and I repeat them. And her question was, "Is ambition based more on fear or joy?" And most people would go fear, and then Friedkin, who made The Exorcist a couple years ago, wrote a book, and he says, in Hollywood, luck and skill have nothing to do with it. It's all ambition.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's funny because sometimes
Yeah.
people go, well, I'm not going to pick one of your three. I'm going to say
Mhm.
purpose or destiny or persistence, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
but I like, ambition's a heavy thing. So, T.S. Eliot said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Um, Music.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know. Well, recently we had a great discussion about your love for Genesis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so what do you think the function of music is?
um, I really just think it's a personal taste, but I mean, as far as a function, um, I mean, I couldn't imagine a world without music, you know. So, and it's I don't know, it's pretty. I don't play an instrument at all, but I'm definitely fascinated by where music has gone, throughout the generations and throughout the centuries, and how it evolves, and how people gravitate towards different genres. So it should be interesting to see where music is many years from now, whether it's 20 years or 100 years or wherever. But yeah, it'd be a sad world without music of any kind. So it plays a huge function. What the function is, I don't know, but it's definitely a big part for, I think, everyone's
Yeah.
lives, whether they realize it or not. I think.
It's huge. And Igor Stravinsky, even one of the greatest composers of all time, gave lectures on music means nothing. And that's probably why it's so great. It doesn't mean anything in essence. You can't put it into words because it's a different thing. It's like,
Yeah.
what's more fundamental, language or music?
Probably language, but um, music is very fundamental too. I do find myself, like, growing up, I music really hit me hard, different forms and different types of music, and I always had music on, always. And it's interesting now how, as I get older, it doesn't um, it doesn't knock me over as much as it did when I was growing up. And I listen to talk radio and talk stations more than I listen to music, and that was definitely not me, growing up and when first discovering music, you know. But it's interesting how there hasn't been like a new artist that has just like blown me away the last 5 years. I can't get enough of,
Yeah.
whereas that used to happen all the time when I was growing up. So
Yeah, that's interesting because, again, it leads perfectly in the next question. One of the great musicians on the Venice Boardwalk taught me, or he told me, the three T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. So, technique, you learn how to play the instrument. Theory, you know the structure. How does one acquire taste?
I think it's all just with personal, what they grew up with.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I some of my best friends, we just have completely different tastes in music. So it's just it's interesting. And yeah, I tried, to get into some of the hip hop, and it's just not me. Whereas I have a neighbor who that's all he listens to, and there's nothing wrong with that. It makes him feel good, and that's what he enjoys. So it's just, different tastes. Yeah. Just like different foods almost.
It's a gut. Yeah, it's gut. But it's also McLuhan, again, expanding on that word. He said, song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any thoughts on that?
Um, yeah. But I also think it's how their generations and traditions have evolved over the years. But definitely language is obviously a huge part of that. But when you bring in the cuisine and music, and art, and and what what that region you know has been through over the years, that plays a part also. But I lost my train of thought.
Oh, no, that's all right. 'Cause I was gonna ask you, can you tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh?
Benny Hill.
I got that several times. That's a good
Yeah,
one, Mark. I
yeah,
love when the universality of my questions hit, like, a lot of people saying the same thing.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, 2 of my film heroes say the same mantra, "Ignore yourself." Jonas Mekas says, "There is no self-expression." And Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, says, "I'm just a vehicle, and this stuff comes through me." Is art making, music making, filmmaking, more self-expression or more your vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and environments are dominant?
I think a lot of it's self-expression.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially writers. Yeah.
Can art making be egoless?
Um, can it be? Sure, but
Yeah.
I think you know we all, anyone who's making something out of thin air in any kind of art form, um, you has to want it to be good for themselves. So not necessarily an ego for everyone to to like or to enjoy, but at least for themselves too. So,
Yeah. Is perception reality?
no, I wouldn't think so. Um,
Why is it so difficult for humans to consider the possibility that life may be pointless? I'm not saying life is pointless. I'm saying, why is it so hard for humans to consider it might be pointless?
Mm, um, yeah, I guess most people just I guess our brains are I think we feel our brains are so intricate, and the world is so grand that it can't be pointless, can it? You know.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
No, not that I can think of. Um, I'm not really one to, you know. I think just conspiracy theories are there's like a little bit of 5 to 10% of truth in most conspiracy theories. Nowadays with the internet and all these scammers out there, a lot of it's 100% you know false. But no, as far as believing in something that I thought was not believable, I top of my head I can't think of anything.
Tell me, Mark, one element of your kind of Markness, who you are, that stayed the same, and one that major element that's changed in your life.
Mm, I guess I don't know. I guess let's see. Um, I guess I used to be pretty egotistical, growing up, and just being a young, athletic guy. I kind of didn't really care much. Not say care much, but I didn't really appreciate what other people, thought I should appreciate more of.
Yeah.
So, and I guess that's kind of leads into how I've changed. Whereas, there's a few things that, I just simply didn't appreciate that I really do now. At the same time, I'm trying to think of a couple things that, a couple concrete answers as far as what that is,
But that gives me an overall, because it leads into Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness that you turned into a strength.
well, I guess I kind of always knew that when I put my mind to something, I know I can learn it
Yeah.
or make it happen, or um, you know, um, if I need to learn the stock market, I'll learn all these terms, and I'll do it. I'll put my mind
Yeah.
to it, and I know I have that in myself. I know what I'm capable of as far as if I really want to learn an instrument, I know I could do it.
Yeah.
So I know I have that in myself that I can if I put my mind to it, I know I can do it.
Well, that's like confidence. And it's maybe a word you brought up earlier, like willpower.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like work ethic. Where'd you get your work ethic from?
I guess just from the family, from my mom and dad, and the rest of the
Yeah.
family, and yeah, I figure, I hope I'm going to live a long life, and I hope I'm going to be comfortable doing that, and I figure that it's all going to, won't, it's all going to matter what I'm doing now. Will that will, relate to how well I'm doing later. So if I don't work now, I'll have nothing later. If I do work now, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Even if
Fill
that
in
means
the,
working the rest of my life.
yeah. Fill in the blank, Mark. Anger can be a productive emotion when.
When you don't get arrested and go overboard.
You don't get arrested. That's when you go overboard. That's back to Jimmy Buffett. But you know, um, great folk singing activist Utah Phillips said, "Anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?"
I'd say the majority Democratic people. I mean,
Yeah,
it's good that we have rules. I think most of them are very good rules, and there's obviously some that should not be rules. Um, that's if I always thought, democratic way. If more than 50%, think it should be one way, that's probably the way it should be. But yeah, not every rule that the government gives us, I think is warranted, especially in other countries. That's always kind of interesting to see how other countries' laws are compared to ours. But there's a lot of bad laws out there that goes back generations and centuries that never should have been laws in the first place, whether it's slavery or income tax or whatever you think, or drugs. Can, maybe people can feel differently on, but marijuana is a thing now where, that's kind of changing, where it's not really going to be, you know, the law anymore, as far as being imprisoned and whatnot. Whereas, 30 years ago, you're going to jail. So it's just
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
It's like right here in Venice, the cops made bongo playing illegal in Venice. It's like, what kind of law is that? That's
Yeah.
like an acoustic instrument. Music
Yeah.
heals.
It's
Well,
like,
what's the difference, Mark, between rights and responsibilities?
um, yeah, let's see. Well, I think responsibility is more a personal thing,
Yeah,
whereas, rights is more of, you know, a society
yeah.
thing. So, yeah.
What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Mm, I, I've never had kids, but I do hear from men who have had kids that once they've had them, they felt an overwhelming emotion that they have to take care of that child. They have to do whatever it takes to make money, to secure safety, housing or whatever it might be for that child. I've obviously never experienced that myself. I have heard that from other men.
Yeah,
They need to gather food, or whatever that might be, but we're going to protect and gather food and to be a man. So I'm not sure. I've heard that from other men. I'm sure some women have that feeling also, but that just comes to mind right now as far as what I've heard from other males.
yeah.
It's a form of protection. Yeah.
Protection, yeah, no, so there's a line that goes, you create what you resist. And Bobcat Goldthwait morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel said, thank God I'm an atheist. So it's basically this idea of not you, Mark, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that line? You create what you resist.
Um, I don't know. Personally, yeah. I mean, I don't know. um, I got nothing on that one.
No worries. These are 5 Alan Watts questions just off the top of your head in a couple words. It's playful. 1, who started it all?
Hopefully, a God.
Are we going to make it?
Uh, yes.
3, where do we put it?
Hopefully, wherever we want.
4, who's cleaning it up?
Hopefully, we all are.
5, is it serious?
Most things are.
Yeah. How do you find peace of mind?
The beach, the
Yeah,
ocean. Yeah. Um, yeah.
it's good.
I'm not sure if I could. I think I go insane if I lived more than an hour from a beach.
Yeah.
From an ocean. Yeah.
Well, what first brought you to Venice? Was it the movie industry to LA, or what was the specific to go to Venice?
I moved to LA in 1993 because I was working for a record distributor. So I was in the music business a little bit, and I kind of bounced around West LA and Santa Monica for 6 years until I moved to Venice in '99. And it just so happens I was at a friend's party, and there was a friend sign across the street, and came in. I always wanted to live here at the beach, and I knew a lot of friends in the area at the time, so it worked out great, and glad I did. And yeah, because I really didn't like LA before I moved to Venice. I
Yeah.
just thought it was kind of, pretentious and just not my scene. And I didn't really have any true friends yet either. And I don't know, I just kind of gravitated here and wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
It's amazing. It's great that we met at Venice Heritage Museum because it's such a great gathering of Venice people of all diverse. My take is Venice is cool because you can have a millionaire movie director next to a homeless tweaker and not tell the difference. But if
Right.
you go to Santa Monica or Marina del Rey, there's a distinct difference.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Keep your ego in check.
Nice. Ego in check. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
It's always been over for me. Always.
Yeah. If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
New Jersey to Venice.
There you go, New Jersey. They want to scent the glue in the binding of your autobiography. What smell?
Well, maybe a little chai.
Chai. So, if a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Definitely Venice, made of um, glass.
Glass. Well, we know the glass blower. You know John Mooney right down your street there? He teaches.
No, I don't know.
Oh, you got to meet him. He teaches glass blowing like right near you. And he's really a great Venice person.
He's in the Venice Stories, I believe.
Yeah, he's like you're it's kitty corner to Gold's Gym, south about after the art apartments, then there's a car repair place. It says glass blowing. Go in there and introduce yourself. He'll give you a tour of glass blowing. He's such a great Venice person, man.
Nice.
And then you can tell him I was on Gerry's podcast and you're going to do a do a sculpture of me. He probably would. He's that nice. Few more and we're out of here, Mark. This has been fun. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Well, I mean, I've never had like a true loving person. I never had like someone to marry. That'd be something I would I would want, that I never had, but something that's good that would never want. I don't know. I can't really think of anything. I would want to, as much money as possible. I would want to live a long life. I would want a lot of good things.
The three answers I get the most. Tell me something good you never had, but you never wanted, as money, fame, and heroin.
Definitely don't want heroin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even fame, I think I would imagine it's overrated. But
well, I think that's what the Dylan film is all about. The title gives it A Complete Unknown, and the whole thing is him dealing with fame. It's like the meat of the whole movie is how he hates it.
It's got to be a different world. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Have you seen the film yet?
No, not yet. No.
Yeah. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Just deal with it, I guess.
Yeah.
just kind of laugh it off, I guess, at that point, right?
Laugh it off is a good attitude. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Well, I won't say it really inspires me, but what fascinates me is the whole, shift with AI, the way our world is kind of going in that direction. I mean, they're saying that AI will do to computers what computers did to our analog devices. So, I mean, it should be really interesting to see where it goes. And I'm always appreciative that I'm alive at this time where so many changes have happened in my lifetime. So yeah, that's kind of fascinates me a little bit. Yeah.
Because, right here in our own neighborhood, Waymo has been the research and development for
Mm.
driverless cars. And, I've surveyed people at my meetings at Venice Heritage Museum about them, and most of them are scared shitless and don't want them in our neighborhood. And one guy goes, they drive a lot better than most of the drivers. And then
Right.
I had a doctor's checkup today, and I asked my doctor, and she goes, they can see in every direction, which most drivers can't. But a friend of ours took a Waymo and says, this is great. I can turn the music up. I can sit there and play whatever I want. And then it stopped in the middle of an intersection. And so he had a call and they'll go, okay, we're remotely fixing it. And he got panicky, like the cars were going to hit him.
Yeah.
And he tried to open the door and he couldn't. They lock
Right.
you in.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So do you have
Well,
any experience with Waymo or any opinion on them?
no. Well, I signed up for it. I haven't used it yet. I do think, like anything else, it will. The more time goes by, the more they'll iron out the kinks, and it will get better. Um, and it should be interesting because you have Waymo, and you're gonna have the Teslas, and I think there's another big company out there too, I believe. So it'll be interesting. I do think that they probably, at the end of the day, they will make less mistakes than humans, and be more convenient overall. Whereas almost like it's almost be a surprise that we're not taking them more than that we should, or I don't know. It should be interesting to see where car sales go too, because why pay so much for registration and the car itself and insurance when you just get a
Exactly.
Waymo? So
Yeah.
yeah.
What's a question that remains unresolved for you?
Um. Hmm. Um. Will I get to Hawaii?
Good. You mean you've never gone there?
Nope, never been. Yeah.
I have never been there either, man. We have something in common.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So, how has the music business, you were in that a while, and the film business shaped your behavior? How has your career in the film business shaped your behavior?
Mm, well, foreign films have definitely opened my, open, got me more open minded for different
Yeah.
cultures and different people. Um, if when I was working in Miramax, I really watched a lot of, and I still do watch a lot of foreign films, and they really do open your minds, and almost like you're traveling to that country, and just make you more open minded and not as judgmental, and you can see what other cultures go through, and why they had these traditions, and what it means to them. So I think it definitely made me more appreciative of
Yeah.
different people and different lifestyles, and yeah.
Good put, Mark. It's amazing because when they asked McLuhan what does what humanness do movies extend, he said the foot, because you travel.
Yeah,
Most people say eye or
yeah,
memory or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
So Thornton Wilder said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You laid your cards on the table for almost 90 minutes now. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
Mm, just to be as happy as possible.
Yeah.
Now, today, tomorrow, and every day, and
Yeah.
and just try to, live my best life.
Yeah. Well, where'd you get that's like you're an optimist, right? Yeah. I mean, where'd you get that from? The way your parents raised you or on your own?
Um, but both. But yeah,
Yeah.
my parents were definitely optimists too. Yeah, yep, yeah.
Well, what gives you the most optimism?
Mm, laughing with friends.
Oh, that is great, man. I can't agree more, man. That's what life's all about, laughing.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's been an honor and a pleasure, Mark. This has been fun because the first question I ask is, what's the best thing for a human being? You said freedom, opportunity, happiness, and then you're meeting people. And when they asked Wilhelm Reich, what's the best thing for a human being? He said, other people. And then the last question is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. What gives you the most optimism? And Groucho said, other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it was you, Mark. Thank you so much for your time and energy, man.
No, I appreciate it. It's funny about that too, because I don't consider myself a people person. so, so but yeah, I mean, but
But
that's, I,
that's what it's about, us
yeah,
meeting because you somehow you had the willpower to come to my salon at Heritage, Museum, Heritage, Venice Heritage Museum. So, I appreciate that. And you were like one of the regulars, but now that we moved it to Thursdays at 3, you got to wiggle your way out of work and come on by.
yeah, yep.
Because I
But
thought when I changed the time, well, they helped change it. I sort of agreed we had to change it. I says, 3 o'clock on a Thursday, no one will come. I says, that's all right. None of the people who come to my salons have jobs anyways. But the first one we had on Thursday was packed, So I mean, to me, if we have 10 to 15 people, that's enough. Then you have a
yeah,
healthy discussion.
yep, yeah. Those are always fun. So I'm glad you do
Yeah.
it. It's great
Yeah.
meeting you. Yeah,
Well, thanks again, Mark.
yeah,
And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.
great, love it. Thank you,
Th-
Jerry. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
All right.